Welcome back to the channel, Woodchucks. I'm glad to have you. Today we are going to do the third carving in a series on the nativity set. We're going to do baby Jesus, right? And I think that he just turned out fantastic. I really like the way he turned out. And you can be able to do the painting video as well. And we can finish him up one or two ways. You can paint him, or you can do the black walnut Danish oil and then paste finishing wax for whichever kind of style you want to go for. I like the simple message, the simple kind of carving for baby Jesus. I didn't want to get complicated with them. And I've seen a lot of folks do very, very similar carvings to this, right? Like David Young carving. There's a couple carvers on Character Cards, a couple carvers on Instagram, all different folks doing very similar stuff to this right here for baby Jesus. I didn't want to get too much more complicated. Like I didn't want to do crazy things for a swaddle or a face. I wanted to leave it bare. I like the simplicity of this, and the message. It seems like the lines coming out kind of give the illusion of like rays of sunshine, while also looking like hay in a manger. I like the simple carving for this one. I really do. So I hope you do too. And if you do and you'd like to carve him, we're going to do that right now. So let's go ahead and flip the camera around and get to the hands, and you can jump right into it. Alrighty, so in getting started, we have a block of wood that is 3 inches long, 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So this block is just a wee bit shorter than the blocks we've been working on for Mary and Joseph. And then, yeah, it's going to be pretty simple to start. We're going to make baby Jesus just kind of on a flat surface. We're going to put some ridges in there for hay, just to give an illusion of that. And then we're going to make him a very simple carving, right? And we're going to dig down in there a little bit around the outside edge to give a little depth to it. But this is not going to be complicated. It'll be very simple. And I like the way it's going to turn out. So let's turn this block here. And what we're going to do to start is, because I like to cheat, I'm going to use a penny to draw that head. And I'm going to go about in the first third there or so, you know, like if about halfway up and then about 1/8 inch over, I'm going to put that penny and then hold that in place while I draw a circle for his head, like so. And then I'm just going to draw a general oblong shape coming down here and back up like so. That's not quite perfect. Let's just take that outer edge off. Redraw lines as necessary. Well, that's a good place to start. Now, because this is not a square shape, and we're going to be using a square knife, it can be difficult to get this down. So we're going to block this out. To do this, I'm going to be using mostly a rough out knife. I have a detail knife here as well that I can grab. I'm going to show you some things we can do with a V-tool. There's a number 15 file gouge that I have. I'm not going to use that the whole time, and I'm going to show you how you can do it without the V-tool. And I'm probably going to lean to using using a knife to do most of these ridges right here myself. But you can absolutely use a V-tool to do it, and you'll be able to knock those out pretty quick and easy. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to start taking off these hard corners because I don't like the way they feel in the hand, and we're going to be taking off all that stuff anyway. So just knocking off all those hard corners will make things a little bit easier on me. And pay no attention to the marks on the back there. That was an idea I had, but I'm trying to keep these carvings simple and not too complex, because I want someone who's a beginner to be able to go through them. And I realized that what I was trying to do was probably going to be a little bit too difficult for some folks to do without injuring themselves. But the idea was basically to put some legs on the base of baby Jesus, like so, right? But cutting into there can be difficult, and I had someone helping me and trying it themselves, and they almost cut themselves doing it because going this direction or coming down this direction, the grain is going vertical. So here what we're going to do, right, while we're working on this, I want you to orient the carving and not think about like this, okay? Don't think about going left to right, because the grain direction is up and down. Think about your carving in this direction, okay? Like we're doing it vertically. The reason I say that is because the wood grain here is going up and down. And as we start to carve, we'll get accustomed to that wood grain being in that direction, and we'll do more coming in sideways than we would normally do, because we know the wood grain, we're not going to catch it or slice right through it, right? At some points, if you're carving in here, you can get right between the wood grain, and that knife will just get loose and slide and take off a large chunk, right? Well, it doesn't happen that way going sideways, going into the side of the wood grain. So that is something you can develop a feel for naturally. And if you orient in your mind the carving in a different direction, you might not think of it, and you might wind up injuring yourself because of that. So we want to orient the carving in this manner and think of it in this way while we're carving, so that if we have developed that subset of skills where we think about the carving in that way, this is going to take care of us, not cause issues. All right. I always like to put some thumb wrap on. I don't put thumb wrap on to protect my thumb from getting cut. I put thumb wrap on because I am very pushy with my thumb, using it as an engine for my knife as I pushed back the blade. And that can get, over time, very tiresome, especially when you do a lot of carving. It can make calluses and just really hurt that thumb and get sore after a while, kind of constantly pushing so hard and doing this, right? And for a lot of folks, they may say, hey, it looks like Johnny's getting a lot more wood out. It's probably because I'm putting a lot more force behind my knife sometimes when I'm carving stuff than you might be. And that's why I have that wrap on my thumb. Okay, so I'm just going to start cleaning up these edges first, taking off some of these saw marks around the outer edges. Let's go ahead and get rid of that stuff. Same thing on the bottom. And the bottom is less of an issue. You don't have to do it on the bottom because that's going to be the bottom of your carving here. And like I said, we need to orient it. This is not the bottom. This is the back of our carving. If we orient that way right now and stay that way, we'll have less problems from someone making a mistake accidentally and hurting themselves. We don't want to hurt ourselves. So on the back of our carving, this is the side of our carving. There we go. And we'll worry about the end grains a bit later. But those sides, that, and this. Now, to make this a little bit easier, we're going to be taking a lot of depth down here, okay? And you can see on this guy or on the overlay right here on the left how deep we're going to go. But we can make this a little bit easier on ourselves by sectioning this off. So if I just imagine a line here and here, I take those two sections down, and the same thing here. I imagine a straight line across here, and I can add those indentations in a lot easier once I get the depth down here. So if I take things down in that block pattern, this will be a good bit easier, okay? So I'm going to use this detail knife. I'm going to set this thing down on the table. I put this knife straight in, and I'm just going to bring a line down, okay? Just putting a little depth to it. And then do it again. And go in the same hole, push in a little bit farther, and I just bring that knife down, okay? All the way down to that line there at the bottom. Pulling it out, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. We'll push it right in at the top of that line, and you can see I come right in line with the top of that. And then I'm just going to bring it down, and I'm keeping my fingers out of the way. If the knife slips out of the wood, it's going to hit my crafting mat and not me. That's the goal here. Going back in that second time and bringing that knife straight down like so. Now I'm going to do the same thing for these two lines here. I turn it. Now we're going cross grain. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to pull that knife through. Keeping my hand up out of the way, I'm going to push the knife in here and pull across and do it again. Now I know I'm not as deep as I did on the left and right. I'm going to go a little bit deeper and do a third pass. And then we come over here to the other side and do the same thing. Right in there. Second pass. Let's do a third pass. Okay, and we got about that much depth, which is not a lot. We're probably going to do this again, but for now we can go ahead and start taking off some of this on the sides. And so I can start carving in here. I'm going to try to keep the tip of the blade in line with where that line is and just pull the wood out. This is going to be time consuming. It's going to take time. Do not rush it. You whittle away a little bit at a time and you keep going, okay? Getting in a rush and getting in a hurry, that's how people get hurt. We don't want to get hurt. We don't want to cut ourselves. This bottom corner here, I can do a paring cut, put that right thumb on the bottom of the wood down here, and I can just pull straight down and out. Okay, this paring cut, if you haven't seen that before, is fantastic because it gives you a lot of leverage. But the thing to remember is this thumb stays down here. This is the action we've got going on, okay? The thumb is powering the knife. So when I'm doing this, that thumb is what's pushing it. The knife is staying put, okay? So I'm not pushing my thumb towards the knife. I'm pushing my thumb under the knife. And if I get used to doing this paring cut in this manner, I'm not in danger of injuring myself. A lot of times in carving, you see, or videos you see online of people doing stuff, like movies is what I'm saying. You see people whittling and they're doing crazy things with a knife, just flicking things out like that. When you're doing caricature carving like this, that's not really a great move. You want to have control of the knife. And then you hear people say in old movies or old TV shows like, "Oh, you never carve that knife towards you." Well, I get that that's a safe maneuver to not do it. It's a good rule of thumb. But when you get into caricature carving, you're going to need to do that often, and being able to do it safely is a priority. So, for instance, right here, I can do this maneuver too. I can put this right thumb down here, and I can carve in right underneath that and get more wood out. And see, that thumb is down here under that. And I push, that blade comes out right there. It is safer than one might think when you break down what's actually happening. So keep that in mind as you see me doing it, and be very careful. If you don't feel comfortable doing a cut like that, don't do it. Definitely take your time and only do what you feel comfortable with when it comes to this stuff. And we'll just, we're going to keep whittling away at it for a bit. I'll do that cut. You pivot the carving too as you look at it. Think about how you want to do it, what the right way is for you. And we're just going to be spending some time taking that down. I got a chance to do the International Association of Wood Carvers this past weekend. I haven't got a chance to tell you that. And I think it went pretty well. That video should be up later today, actually. The day this video posts, it should be up same day. So if you haven't gotten an opportunity to see that video, go check it out if you'd like to. If you want to see more of me, see me answer questions about wood carving, about my wood carving journey, my experience, and how I learned and how I've been learning. I'm continuing to learn, I should say, because I am by no means an expert. I am a wood carving amateur who is thoroughly enamored with the hobby and doing its best to spread the hobby to as many people as possible. So I really appreciate it if you take a look at it, but you don't have to. Do what you want to. At any rate, though, I think it went pretty well, and it was a fun experience and a bit of a feather in my hat to say that I got invited to go on the International Association of Wood Carvers. That's a pretty neat thing for me, so I was pretty excited. And they said they might even want to have me back sometime, so that's fun. There we go. Another thing I want to make mention of too is if you enjoy this content at all, if you like it, if it's worthwhile to you, like the video, subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out. I'm doing my best to grow this channel because I've got a mission. You understand? I've got a mission to spread wood carving. I want to get as many people trying out this hobby as I possibly can because it is so fun and it's so rewarding and it's so easy to get into. But it's difficult to get new people into it sometimes because they think that they can't do it because they say I'm not artistic. Well, I'm not artistic either. I never thought of myself as artistic my entire life, and yet here I am sculpting, basically, right? out of wood. Because art and being artistic, it's not some nebulous thing. It's not this thing that you can't quite grasp. It is a very real skill, and it's a skill that we develop through work. If you want to be artistic, engage in artistic things. And I did not know that. I really didn't, because all my life, up until my 40s, I had no artistic skill whatsoever and never pursued anything artistic in any way, shape, or form. So we got a little bit of depth there. We're getting there. I'm going to go ahead and redo those lines here on the left and right sides and top and bottom. Put a little bit more depth to it. Second pass. Pass number 1 on this side. See, I'm keeping my fingers out of the way. Just because I'd like to not cut myself today. And I'm getting a good bit of depth there. I mean, if I put that's how much depth I got. That's fantastic. You don't have to do the same. Well, I'm going to have my fingers in the way here while I push the knife into the wood. Then when I go to pull it, I rotate it down. Going cross grain, that's where it's difficult. So be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Okay? Don't cut yourself. Be mindful. There's a reason I'm carving down like this when I'm doing this into the mat, so that if you're copying me and you slip, your knife blade will go right out and into the mat and not into you. Okay? There we go. Now we got that deepened. We can go right back to whittling away at this. And again, I'm going to say what I said already. Take your time. We're not in a rush. We're just taking a little depth off this. We want baby Jesus to be sitting out of the carving a bit. This is also really good practice, that paring cut. If you pay attention and you're careful, it's very good practice to get better at it. And as you get better at a cut like that, you will see some spots where you start to use it in other places. Now I'm stopping right here because you can see how the wood grain is pulling me deeper, right? I want to use this time as a moment I can teach about wood grain. The wood grain here is traveling up and down through the carving like this. And it's going slightly this direction here, right? Slightly this direction. The issue there is I got between the wood grain and it's getting deeper and deeper as I go. I'm having trouble getting it less. I'm going to have having trouble getting it shallower because the wood grain is pulling it deeper. So if I continue, I'm going to cut a lot off this side and it might be more than I want to carve off. So I need to be mindful of that. That's why I stopped to take a look at it here. So is it going to be too much? I don't think it is going to be too much because I want to get more depth to that figure there in the middle. So I think as it comes out, it's going to come out down here. I think that's okay. So I'm going to keep going with it. But I can feel it pulling deeper, and I want to make sure I point it out to you. You should be mindful of that. Be mindful of your wood grain and what it's doing to you. And as you learn that, you're going to be capable of so much more. So we came out not far off from where I thought we would. That's pretty good. And that chips off right there. So we did all right. But be mindful of your wood grain and what it's doing. And we can just chip things out as we need to. It's a lot easier when you don't try to carve the whole shape down and do it blocky like we're doing. Much easier to get done because straight lines, like, they're simpler than curved lines. And we can add those curved lines in afterwards much more easily than we can. Yeah. Sorry, than we can normally. I get distracted sometimes. And wood carvings never look great when you're in the middle of them, right? They never look real wonderful when we're doing them. It's when we get done with them that we start to see, beauty in them. I think every carving I've done, I think, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm doing so horrible. This is looking terrible. No one will want to see this. I should hide this. No one's going to want to do this, right? It happens to me. I'm sure it's happening to you. We move past it. That's something that people who do art deal with. Everyone who's making something, you're gonna feel like you might not be doing it right. You might not be doing it good enough. That's a feeling a lot of artists get. And it's weird sometimes, especially when you're new at something, to think of yourself as being an artist, right? I get that. Trust me, I get that. I am a 44-year-old man, and I have never thought of myself as being an artist my entire life. And yet here I am doing things that are artistic. I'm doing them because they're fun, but artistic things beget artistic problems. Those being, well, inadequacy a little bit. You'll feel like the carvings are terrible. And you know, at first, they are going to be terrible. You're going to make some terrible carvings. We got a whole video about making terrible carvings and pushing past it because it's so important to make those terrible carvings. Getting experience, it takes time and it takes work. You can't just make a great carving the first time. And if you do, you know, you're Beethoven. You are just the savant. Most of us, we have to work for the skill. And working for the skill takes time and effort. We're getting pretty good depth now. About where I want to be. A little bit deeper around here on the top. Like I said, this could be a simple carving today. Nothing complex. We don't need baby Jesus being too complex. Right? Look at that. That's about the height. That's getting close. Let's go a little bit deeper maybe. I like the depth on that one. And we want to be able to clean up those rough edges. Because, like, look how terrible these edges look, right? You'd be talking about how terrible your edges are. I know you are. You'd be judging yourself, right? I am not paying enough attention. And I'm getting too deep in those edges there. And so my tip of my knife is scoring that, right? We're going to fix that. We're not going to leave that there. We're going to take care of it. This is what you see when you're in middle carving. That's why you make this guy a little bit bigger than you want him to be. Because when that happens, you can carve it off, take care of it. So our figure's going to be a little bit smaller than he is here as we clean up this carving. Okay? There we go. Someday I won't be as concerned with wood chips, hopefully. I always have to stop, push them over to a pile. I don't know why I do that. I don't want to do that. I'd like to not do that, but I can't help it. We all have quirks. All right, let's start to clean this up a little bit. So we've got a good bit of depth there. Clean that corner fast. We got a good bit of depth there, and now we need to start making this a head. So I'm going to start by carving off that corner there. I'm going to do the same thing for this corner, and rather than coming in sideways, it's coming from the top on this one, right? And just round off that corner, and come from the bottom and ship it out. See how easy that did, right? We do the same thing over here. We can come in from the bottom a bit more, and then round that just off a bit better. And look how good that corner looks. It looks fantastic. So let's do the same thing on the top. Kind of carve down in here to clean up that edge. Rounding that corner a bit. Yeah, a little start there. And now we need to do this side here. So I'm going to come in at an angle like so. And I'm going to push down like that. You can see that angle, right? I've got it fairly deep in there. I went all the way up there and just came straight down in. And the same thing here at this corner right here. Let's make this little triangle. Okay? Right there past the edge of the head, but meeting at that corner. See, I just pop that little triangle out. I can carve up here underneath it a bit. Let that pop out. That gives us a bit of shape to our little baby Jesus. The same thing on the other side. Carve straight down in, like so. And then over here, same type of thing. And then up underneath it. Get a bit more shape to him. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing in the bottom corner that we did in the top corner. We're gonna take off that hard edge, go straight in, at a 45 kind of, then come in along the bottom, and then right here as well. And come in on the bottom. And that gives us some good shape. Take that and clean that off. Okay. Now, I love having these brushes so you can clean up your carving. They get all those fuzzies off of there. So having a good stiff bristle brush is really nice. Now what we're looking at doing is rounding the whole thing off and then rounding this part as like a circle, but having them touch a little bit on the inner edge there. So to start that, I'm going to come in the corner like so and do the same thing over here. And this is not the end shape here. It's just start. Follow? Just a start. So as we round it off more. That. A little bit on this side. We'll take a little bit off the top. Off the side. And a little bit off the very middle here. Put a little V cut in right there. Now I'm just rounding off, getting rid of hard edges, cleaning up lines to bring that shape that I want, right? Turning that blocky square into something that's round. And then we're carving the front face here off a little bit because the saw marks are still there. Okay. So you see we got some good progress there, right? We're making our progress. All right, now we do the same thing to the body that we did the head. We'll start with a little 45-degree angle down body. Do the same thing on the other side, a little 45-degree angle. You're gonna be careful because that wood grain coming up here starts to split. You want to keep that in mind. You don't want to have issues like that. Deepening that 45-degree angle coming up to the neckline, right there. That gives us a lot of blockiness. And now we're just going to be smoothing it out. A little more there. Bring the angle in. A bit more on the side of the neck. I'm doing tiny little V cuts here to deepen that neckline a bit. I think it'll look better that way. I'm going to round off this front section. Then I'm going to start taking off the saw marks here. And you don't always have to take off big chunks. You see, I'm doing little slivers right now. Normally I do a lot bigger chunks. Taking this back section there and bringing it down. You can see our carving's starting to look better on the sides now because we've gotten rid of where all those lines had cut in. And so we're getting a better look to our sides, the sides of the head and the sides of the body start to look better. Now, something I want to do too is this. As we do this, I want to outline this figure here because we want to have him look like he's sitting in the wood, right? And you can see on the overlay or right here that this one does have that illusion that he's sitting down in the wood because we've created a V channel right here, right? We create a section where it goes in from the body and in from this hay that we have on the side here. What we need to do here is through this section here, right there, we need to deepen that to where it kind of goes down into it and it comes down into it. We round off this bottom edge a bit. So to do that, it's gonna be a little bit difficult. So we're gonna be very careful. I want you to think about every cut that you do before you do it. Be mindful of where your fingers are and keep track of that stuff, right? We're gonna come in at a 45-degree angle right here, right up against the body, and just come straight up to there, okay? And I bring that blade in. You see how we create that little channel right there? That's what we're going for, but kind of around the whole thing. We may deepen it in certain areas. Put a little V notch right there. Looks like he's kind of sitting into it. We're gonna do the same thing around here. And it might not look great at first. Clean it up. Take your time to get done right. And you may need to come back in at that 45 and come straight into the cut from the top to free it up some. And see, we're getting that shadow now. Starting to see it right there on the top of the head. That's what we're looking for, that little illusion. And sometimes little things like that can set your carving apart from a good carving to just being something that people get enthralled over and they go, wow, look at that. You've come so far. And they don't know what it is about the carving. They can't explain what it is that makes the carving look better than a carving you did a week prior. But it's little things like this that do that. And we can identify that. And you'll be able to see it in other people's carvings too. You'll be able to see those little things that someone else might not notice. And you'll say, look at that. He took the time or she took the time to do this on that carving. And you'll see it. And other people just say, it looks good. It looks like a good carving. But you'll know why it looks like a good carving. Because they took the time, the little details. Okay, so now we've got that set in a bit and you can kind of see it, right? Look at that shadow. It develops around the base of the baby, right? Looking a lot better. I love that. Now we're going to clean up a little bit on the head. I see a little bit of wood grain here. Looks a little rough. I don't like that. Let's take care of that. Deepen this little channel here at the neck. And you can spend all day long on every carving you do, cleaning things up. If any of you watch Doug Linker on YouTube as well, I watched a lot of Doug Linker and I've learned a lot from Doug Linker. He talks about that often in his videos, how you can spend forever cleaning up the carving, making it a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And sometimes you just need to walk away and be done. And he is absolutely correct. He is 100% absolutely correct. But he can still just take you in. You just keep doing things. But that little bit of stuff that you do like that, a little bit of time you invest to make a carving better, it pays dividends. It really does. So don't feel too bad at yourself if you invest 10 or 15 minutes making the carving look better. You should judge yourself harshly if you do hours and hours of that. More time than you spend doing the carving, you spend cleaning the carving up. Okay, it's time to move on. But if you spend 10 minutes, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing, you know? Because see, just going around that for a moment, I think that's looking a lot better, you know? I think it definitely is. And remember this too, right? If there's little lines, like you see there's one little cut line right here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. You can see a little line right there. Well, when I go to wash this carving, the water's going to hit this wood and it's going to expand, and that line is going to disappear and you won't see it. And it's amazing how that works. If you don't watch the painting videos, of course, you might not have realized that's what we're doing on a lot of these carvings. So the painting videos are absolutely a must-see. All right, now we're going to start removing some depth from the bottom here and start forming and rounding off our hay on the sides. So I'm going to come in about a third of the way here on the top. It's probably like a quarter of an inch. Okay, I'm going to do that all the way around on the carving. Let me go ahead and get a ruler out to make sure that people see it. And actually, it's about a half inch. It's a good thing I got the ruler out. Yeah, that is indeed, well, 3/8 of an inch. So 3/8 of an inch. But use your judgment. If you start looking at it, you're like, man, I want to go taller with that, then go taller. If you think, man, that's too tall, then go shorter. Use your own artistic license to figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it. If you don't start doing that at some point, you will delay your own development of that skill. And there's just another skill that you need to develop, is taking an artistic license and changing things. That is another skill you need to develop. So now there's a couple ways you can do this to set this line in here. You can come in with a V-tool and you can start setting the line in like so, and then carving down from it. And that a V-tool in this manner can really help you, because it's easy to draw a straight line with a V-tool, sometimes more easy than it is with a knife. And so like drawing that line right there with this number 15 V-tool can be fantastic. Going across the end grain is much more difficult. So you do it in smaller chunks sometimes, and watch your fingers so you don't cut into it. But then you've got a line clearly defined that you can carve too. You don't have to use a V-tool. You can do the same thing that we did on top and just come straight down with a knife. It's not too hard to do that, but I find that it can be easier to do the V-notch first and then follow it with the knife, and then carving to that. I feel like that initial line there looks a little bit cleaner along the top. Let's try to dig in deep there. See, I think I can pilot that back out though. Yep. And then we're just going to be taking things off all the way around on the sides. Now, before we were working on the top here, right? Or on the front facing section here. But now we're going to be working on taking this entire section here in. It's like the overlay you see, just like this. Bringing it around, all of that in. And not that far. We're going to bring it in about a quarter of an inch. A little bit less than a quarter of an inch. So a quarter of an inch to 3/16, somewhere in there is what we're looking to do. So for those of you who really like measurements, I'm trying to take care of you. And then we're just doing the same thing. Carving it around. Oh, I didn't score that section there. So straight across and sink that knife in. And this is a simpler section that you can just, like if you get your rough out blade out handy, you can just put that rough out blade right in that line and just press down and rock it back and forth a little bit, and you'll get some depth. Like you can see the depth we got there with that knife. Like that's a decent amount of depth, and just rocking it back and forth will let you do that. Carving this end grain, that is going to be difficult. No matter who you are, carving end grain is more difficult. So it takes a little bit more pressure to get that end grain. And there's nothing to it to do it. I mean, like it's just more work, I don't know how else to put it. But take your time. Go with a little bit less at a time than you might on the sides, because it's going to take longer. It's a little bit more difficult. The end grain is where it's going to show you when you need to drop your knife. So if you think, man, now is the time to drop my knife, stop what you're doing. Pause the video. Go drop your knife real quick. and then come back. This is also where you might find that doing that paring cut comes a bit handier. I find that on end grain, because I have so much more leverage with that paring cut, I can get more carving done on end grain. With that paring cut. There we go. So yeah, and we're just going to keep bringing it in. Put a little more depth that line. And then carving down to it. Just taking our time. A little bit at a time. You see these chunks I'm getting off, these are just little flakes. They're not big chunks. That's end grain. I'm not going to get big chunks, not trying to get big chunks. It's just a time-consuming process. Take your time on it. There's no rush. No one's rushing you. Unless you started this project on like December 21st and you need to have it done for Christmas, shame on you. I've had these videos up with plenty of time. You shouldn't have started so late. But if you are, don't rush even then. If you get done a little bit late, your family will understand, especially when you tell them, hey, I got done late, but I don't have any cuts. You didn't go to the hospital. And that's fantastic. Not going to the hospital. Absolutely wonderful. I've always been a big fan of not going to the hospital. My whole life I said, yep, that's a good thing. And then once you get back off the end grain over to the side, man, it is so much easier. It's like, wow, look at that. Look how easy it's coming off. I can get right between that grain a little bit and then just pull it down. Boom, a little bit deeper. And see there, it wasn't coming off on the side because that was how deep my cut had gone. So I can redo that line. Let's get more depth. And I do want to keep going a little bit deeper. So take time to look at your carving from the angles that you need to and see how deep am I. Do I need to go deeper? Have I gone too deep? Good. So I need to stop. You can always remove more wood. You can never add wood back on. And now we're getting bigger chips too as we go because, like I said, that end grain is much easier. Or sorry, not the end grain. Going with the grain is much easier to carve. That's one of the things you're learning by doing tutorials too, is recognizing wood grain. Once you start to recognize wood grain, and I talk about wood grain more often than other folks doing videos, because I think that one of my bigger hurdles whenever I was newer was understanding what was happening with the wood grain. And I didn't understand. I was just carving, and some parts were harder, and I just didn't think, why is it harder? I didn't stop to question, is the thing, you know? And you need to stop and question. You need to take charge of your own learning experience a little bit when it comes to stuff and say, what do I need to do to get better at this? And work on that, you know? Because if you're going to be following along on a tutorial anyway, why not get better? And we can do a carving and get better. What if we say to ourselves, I want to get better, and then earnestly look for ways to improve while doing something? The improvements we see can be far more than just passively doing a project. If we look for how we can improve and how we can better ourselves. But that is not something that comes naturally to human beings. This is not something that we're naturally going to do. We've got to force ourselves into that position, into that way of thinking. Definitely not something I come naturally at. There we go. Okay, we got a bit more end grain to do up here at the top. That's where we did the the V tool mark. Let's do the same thing here. Just gonna rock it in. Rock, and then that's a good bit of depth. You can see there on the right side how deep that knife is. That's a good bit of depth. And now we're gonna start with some paring cut action. I'm choking up on the blade, and the way that I do that is I keep that blade right in the crook of that knuckle, right there, and I fold my fingers around it like this. My fingers aren't touching that blade, but they're on either side of it, so that blade is kind of open there in my palm. And I can get up a little bit higher, and then use this knife like it's a detail knife to get up in there. And I could just be using my detail knife to do this. But I want to show people this because you can use your rough out knife, if you got a good rough out knife that's got a sharper tip on it, as a detail knife so much. You don't necessarily have to have a detail knife. So for those of you who are trying to do this one knife only, I want to show you how you can do it. I also want to encourage you at the same time to look at what other options you have for other tools, because there are so many tools that you would really love to have that could be immensely beneficial to you, like a V tool, like a good U-shaped gouge, a number 11, number 9, you know. They are immensely enjoyable, immensely beneficial to have. You don't have to start out expensive with them if you don't want to. The Dockyard tools, those versions, those are fantastic. And I've showed those in a palm tools video I talked about. Like the Dockyard tools are these little ones like this. Like this is a U gouge. It's a 3mm U, right? They're just fantastic little tools. Like a pen, and you can use them for all kind of detail work. And you know, they're fantastic. And I got them right there in a little container. That's a homemade container, in case you didn't pick up on that. I made that out of an old 4x4 from the garage. Drilled some holes in the top, and then I cut little pieces of cork to put in the bottom so that when I drop blades in there, it doesn't damage them as they bounce the bottom of it, because that's wood, you know. I don't want them to chip the blades. That little bit of cork has done fantastic, and I haven't had any problems. When I posted a picture of it online too, several people said, man, Johnny, you got to watch out because the moisture content in that could cause those things to rust. And I took that very seriously. So when I finished it out, I used wax on the end grain, poured that wax down into those holes and all of the whole thing, coated it with the paste finishing wax. And after doing that, that was 7 or 8 months ago, of these tools being in that thing the entire time, and they look fantastic. They haven't rusted at all, haven't had any issues. Okay, we've got the depth we want there, I think. Looks pretty good. I don't see a problem there. We might go a little bit deeper as we round these corners off. So let's start rounding these corners off here. Kind of the hay is kind of going to be overflowing over the edge of this trough, right? Because Beta Jesus was a manger, was like a trough for feeding animals. And that's all they could put him in, right? Alrighty. Rounding that corner off too. And we'll take this roughness off the end grain here. Choking up on that. I'm using that paring cut just to barely slice it off. I'm not looking to remove a lot of wood there. I'm just looking to clean it up like so. Same thing over here. There we go. There we are. Now I'm going to take the hard corners off of this all the way around. We want to put a little bit softer edge to it because it's hay. And where are we on the home stretch here? Almost have this done. There we go. I think it's looking fantastic. I think it's going to work out well. Just opening up that angle there all the way around. Okay, so he's looking pretty good now. And now we're going to start putting those ridges in there. It's going to give us the illusion of hay. Okay, now you can do this with a V-tool, and that can be pretty easy. You just come in here and you just make a little notch, and then follow that notch right around the edge, however deep you want to. Okay, you can do this with a V-tool. That might be something that you like to do. Or you can simply come in here and put in a notch like so, and then another notch to bring it down. I'm going to do this with the knife. I'm going to do this for the detail knife, actually. And then as we get to the corner here, we're going to angle these notches out. See how I'm doing that? Right? So they start straight out, and then they get down here, and we start to angle them out. When we get to the bottom here, we'll have them coming at a much sheerer angle. Like so. And then we'll just kind of continue that around. As we go. And just keep moving on up. And then we're changing an angle, angling it further up and out as we get here to the top. Angling it back around the other way as we come around the side, like so, right? And now we're going to continue that angle down and around. So if we had the V-tool, we would have done this already, but we don't. So we're just going to do this with the knife, and 2 more cuts all the way down, like so, and so. So little V cuts there on the corner, like that, clean up. And I do a longer one here. You can see how I let that back of the blade come down a bit longer, right? Elongating that V channel, kind of like a large triangle, so it comes to a point. That's what I'm going for on the edge there, just to get that illusion of depth on the side of the carving, on the side of the thing, you know. And do whatever you think looks good. Don't just do what I do because you think, oh, that's what Johnny did. I'm going to follow what Johnny did. If you think this is going to look better, I think, do that. And if you come up with a carving that looks better than the one I did for the video, I'm excited. That's fantastic. Send me photos. I want to see that. Which brings me to another thing. Come follow me on Instagram. I like seeing people's carvings. Just any carvings that you do, I want to see them too. I like having that in my Instagram feed. So come follow me on Instagram. And if I get a follow from you, I'm going to take a look and see if you got wood carvings in your feed. And if you do, I'm going to follow you back, because I like following wood carvers. I don't know if there's a follow limit on Instagram, but if there is, I'm definitely going to hit it at some point, because I'm going to keep doing that and getting more and more wood carvers in my feed. My Instagram is my wood carving resource for when I need a fix of wood carving. I need to see wood carvings. That's where I go. Although Facebook has been good for that too, but Facebook is good for community at least as much as Instagram is, because I get to talk to people more in the groups, I think, which is nice. It's the same thing with Reddit. Like, I'm on Reddit as well. And if you don't know what Reddit is, it's kind of like, you know how the forums were back in the 90s? People get on forums and BBS boards and get to talk. That's what Reddit is for modern day. And there's a subreddit, which is a section of Reddit for wood carving, a subreddit for whittling, and the subreddit for wood carving has 289,000 people in it. I mean, that is a lot of folks. So there's a whole community there. And the communities for wood carving on Instagram and Facebook and Reddit, they all overlap a little bit. But there are huge populations too that don't have both or aren't on both. And so there's a lot of wood carvings, a lot of the wood carving community that you might not be connected with if you're only on one platform or the other. So for me, trying to keep my ear to the ground, see what people are doing, talk to people. I like to be everywhere. But that's because I'm trying to grow the community, taking it like my personal mission to invest in people, invest in the hobby, see if I can help push the hobby out to more people, because that's just fun. All right, we have followed that around all the way. And there we go. That is our baby Jesus. Nothing complicated, right? Nothing too hard. It's a simple little manger. I'm going to round off, I think, these edges here. A little cleanup that we can do. And just make it look more alive, you know. There aren't hard corners on too much in life. There are, but it's just not that much. They're a little bit softer than we give them credit for. And so bringing that in to our carvings, I think, can really help. Carve the bottom edge of this right here, this hay, around as well. Come in the other direction because the wood grain was going to give me a problem there. And there we have it, all cleaned up. There is a very simple and easy to do baby Jesus. Nothing complicated, and we added a little bit of depth there, which gives it that illusion of a separate piece. And I really like that. And that's all I got for you folks. That is baby Jesus, all finished up there, and I think he just turned out absolutely fantastic. Because they're turning out so well, I couldn't resist showing them as a set right there. Both sides, just absolutely turning out great so far. Now next week I'm going to do another video out, and I'm going to try to do a video on the three kings, and it'll be one video on all three. We'll do three variations in the same theme. Thank you guys so much for watching the channel. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to come back to the channel and watch some other videos. There's going to be more videos popping up on the screen here in a moment, but also I want to ask you, if you like this stuff, if you enjoyed it whatsoever, and if you want to support the channel, just head over to Etsy, and I've got a couple carving stickers that you might like. Wood carvings by Johnny Stickers, and several silly little carving sayings that you could put on a wood carving tote or on a water bottle if you want to. So take a look at those, and if it's something that interests you, buy one. If it doesn't interest you whatsoever, then don't. I don't want to ask you to do it if you don't want to. But that's if you want to support the channel, that's an avenue that you've got where you can. I'm trying to save it to buy a better camera so I can get better quality videos. Other than that, folks, I really appreciate your time. Watch one of the other videos on the channel and have a great day.